So let me preface this by saying that my ex, 40-year-old male, and I, 41-year-old female, have a very cantankerous relationship for many reasons. But communication is the biggest. He flat out refuses to openly communicate with me. He will tell me something in passing, then plan around that small phrase or idea for months, years. Then he will come back to me and want me to just accept it. When I don't, then I am the issue and that's it. I'm wrong. We have 2 kids, 11-year-old female and 7-year-old male. Our 7-year-old is autistic. He is extremely smart, but has social issues. He is okay with strangers for a moment, but then wants nothing to do with them. He is very content by himself. He does not like loud noises or new adventures. To get him to get a new pair of shoes is like pulling teeth. To even get him through a 1-hour Wednesday Bible study is a task. However, these battles I fight alone as their dad lives an hour away. I have the kids Sunday afternoon through Friday evening. So my ex stated that he was going to Nigeria in the summer and wanted to take the kids with him. I was hesitant because the kids have never been on a plane before. Now he wants them to go on such an extended plane ride, though I thought I could possibly take them on a small plane ride before they leave to get them a feel for it. Then he said something that raised all of my red flags. He said that they would go, he would be there with them for a week or 2. He would then give them the choice of staying or coming home, though he is only buying them a one-way ticket right now. This started an argument as I was like, absolutely not. My ex left Nigeria 13 years ago and has only been back once for a few days. My kids know nothing of Nigeria. They don't speak Yoruba and know his family only fleetingly from speaking to them on the phone every now and then. They are not comfortable staying with strangers. I know he plans to take them there and drop them off. Then he would go back to get them when he wants. His mom was here for a few years and the kids were raised around her. I am sure she left to go back to Nigeria a month or so ago. He couldn't confirm this, but he won't. They know his mom very well, but still, even being there with her is a stretch. This is a lot for 2 small kids to take in. He has not even considered my son at all. He just keeps saying that his nieces and nephews are there for the kids to play with. My kids could care less and would be through with them all in about an hour. I know the kids would be absolutely miserable. My ex and I do well, and my kids have lived a very privileged life. He is not even considering that. He doesn't see the issue in me not wanting him to leave them there, and in not having a return ticket. He said if they chose to stay, the price to change the ticket would be too much. I asked if they wanted to come home, and he said he would book them a return ticket right away. I do not want them to go at all now. He said I'm wrong. Am I the idiot? Long update. So I looked at all of your comments, and I am definitely taking your advice. I spoke at length to my daughter tonight. She said that her dad has been saying that they are going to Nigeria this summer, and that she and her brother will stay there. For a year or 2, I was on the roof, though she was so calm when she said it because they have talked a lot. She said she has always said that she didn't want to go, but he said it's for the best and everything is planned. He has been planning this for well over a year, and I had no idea. Then I realized only after this incident and reading your posts that I don't even know this man. 15 years I've known him, and he never really introduced me to his family. I have only spoken to his eldest brother maybe 3 times, but there are 6 siblings in total. I haven't spoken to anyone else in his family who is in Africa. He knows all of my family very well and asks about their lives often. I used to tell him all about them. When I ask about his family, he says nothing more than they're doing good. That's how it's been for 15 years. I asked him to teach me and the kids Yoruba. He refused, but 85% of the conversations he has on the phone are in Yoruba. All he does is buys cars and complains of having to pay child support. We were a happy family with my previous kids, our kids, and him. Then his mom came here, and within a year things were all downhill. I realized that she was the beginning to our end, or maybe it was already down, and that just added fuel to the fire. I am in a crazy headspace right now because I realize I have no idea who this man is or what he is capable of. I trusted him for so many years, and today I realize that he is a narcissist, a compulsive liar, and that he actually really hates me. I had to pore over some of our interactions within the last 2 years, and in them it's apparent that he doesn't want the kids, but doesn't want me to have them. He purchased a 4-bedroom house in August. and the kids share the smallest bedroom. No one else lives with him. Plus, he told us outright that he didn't have the kids in mind when he purchased the home. It's set up perfectly for a bachelor. Everything is so clear now. I have filled out the CPIP paperwork and sent it back with my supporting documents. I am speaking to the Attorney General's office tomorrow and will be speaking to a lawyer as soon as possible. I told my daughter that if he tells her they are flying anywhere, even if it's to Disney or any other fun-sounding destination, to let me know. I told her if she can't let me know to hide something metal on her body so that she gets flagged. Thanks so much for the idea. I never would have thought of this. I realize now that I am in a fight to keep my kids in this country. I am going to win because he showed me his hand today. Thankfully, I have all passports and original documents, plus I am the primary guardian in all aspects. I just need to ensure I don't let my guard down. This dude is a snake, and I realized I better never even think of trusting him again. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I think you answered your question yourself. I know the kids would be absolutely miserable. Also, the fact that there is no return ticket should raise all the red flags in the world. He might be up to something, and it sounds like family influence due to hyping all the nieces and nephews. He might say the kids love it there and just try to kidnap them. Not the idiot. Please alert authorities to have some sort of record, and don't let the kids in his care for now, if that is possible. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Do not allow this. Contact the State Department to get passports canceled. Ask them what to do if he manages to get them Nigerian passports. Can you restrict them from leaving the U.S.? Nigeria is not a party to the Hague Convention, so there would be no demand to get the kids back, and using the Hague Convention is expensive, but not even an option with Nigeria. Please watch the movie or read the book, Not Without My Daughter. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for more of this saga. Well, the past 2 weeks have been pretty up and down. After I thought I had everything under control, my ex pulled a move that I never saw coming. He went behind my back and somehow convinced my sister, the last person I would have suspected, to side with him. She's always been my rock, but turns out she's been talking to him for months, believing his twisted story that the kids would benefit from cultural immersion in Nigeria. My sister, who I confided in about everything, including my fears and strategies to keep the kids safe, betrayed me. She tried to talk me into agreeing to the trip, saying it would be a great opportunity for the kids. I couldn't believe it. The kids, especially my son, would be out of their element, and she knew it. But there she was, echoing the same nonsense he'd been spouting. I was furious, hurt, and felt utterly alone. But I wasn't going to let this slide. I confronted her, and it was ugly. She admitted that he'd promised her a cut of the money he'd save on child support if the kids stayed in Nigeria. That's right, my own sister sold me out for a few bucks. I was reeling from the betrayal, but I had to act fast. I knew I couldn't trust anyone now. I went to the kids' school and made sure they had strict instructions not to release the kids to anyone but me. I also changed all my locks and installed new security cameras. I wasn't taking any chances. Then just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, they did. My ex somehow got a hold of the kids' passports. I still don't know how he did it, but I suspect my sister had something to do with it. He called me, smug as ever, telling me he was just days away from booking the flights. My heart sank. I felt like I was in a nightmare. But I wasn't going down without a fight. I called the police, reported the passport stolen, and got an emergency appointment at the passport office to get them replaced and flagged. It was a long shot, but it was all I had. In the meantime, my daughter, bless her heart, had been doing some snooping of her own. She overheard a conversation between my ex and someone on the phone about a backup plan involving a private charter. That's when it hit me. He was planning to take them no matter what. I was at my wit's end, but I wasn't about to let him win. I reached out to a friend who works in the airline industry and explained the situation. She was sympathetic and promised to keep an eye out for any bookings under their names. Then the day before he planned to whisk them away, my friend called. She'd found a booking for a private charter flight to Nigeria with 3 passengers, 1 adult, 2 children. I couldn't breathe. I immediately called the police and gave them all the information. The police acted quickly, and thank goodness they did. They intercepted my ex at the private airfield just as he was about to board the plane with the kids. He was arrested on the spot, and the kids were safe. I've never felt relief like that in my life. The aftermath has been a mess. My sister has been trying to apologize, but I can't even look at her. The kids are shaken up, but they're resilient. They're staying close to me, and I'm doing everything in my power to make sure they feel safe and loved. As for my ex, he's facing serious charges. The betrayal, the lies, the scheming, it all caught up with him. And my sister, she's learning the hard way that greed comes at a cost. I'm just trying to pick up the pieces and move on from this nightmare. Thanks for reading. My sister ditched her job for real estate and begged for cash. But when she tried to guilt me into paying her debts, I kicked her out and told her to grow up. Sister is in her late 30s, married, no kids, and 2 previous bankruptcies. She and her husband both worked in banking and made a good living that they left to chase the real estate money. In 2021, our parents let them know how big of a mistake we all thought this was going to be. Everyone saw what was coming. They worked for a couple of years under one realtor, then started their own office by buying one out last year, and are now in financial trouble as they aren't moving homes. We have always been very supportive of her, despite her being in her mid-30s, almost losing her home twice, constant credit card issues, cars repossessed, and really only wanting to be part of the family when she needs money. I've always been fortunate with my career and my husband with his, so when she comes to me, I always oblige, but I just don't want to this time. Example of how it goes when I loan her money. 15 years ago, when they were losing their home in 2009, after they both lost their jobs due to the housing crash of 2009, my husband and I lent them $50,000 to be repaid as they could, our fault. Never anything but the initial, "Thank you, you're saving us," and then a "Yay, we've finally paid you off," almost 10 years later. It was as if we owed them this money, and it was our honor to lend that cash to them, free of charge, and at a repayment plan that was comfy for them. Later, we found out that our parents lent them a sizable loan that they haven't paid a cent towards. Last Christmas, after not seeing them for 5 years and their arrival being somewhat of a surprise, the conversation moved towards real estate. Things got a little heated when our father asked them about the market and how that was affecting them. On cue, they blamed everyone else but themselves and how they were, get this, blindsided, huge eye rolls. Our father ended the conversation with, "Well, just don't come to your mom and I or beck at you if you need money again." I didn't tell them that I loaned her money previously. Last week, my sister called me out of the blue and let me know that due to everyone else's fault but her own, as it's always been, they can't make the numbers work and could use a lift. I was speechless, but I should have known that it was a money call. When she finally asked if she could borrow some money again, I just replied, "That's not a good idea." I should have said 1,000 other things, but that's all I could muster up. I expanded to tell her that it's not a good investment for us because of her track record with us and the banks, and asked why she ignored all of us throughout this real estate journey. As she hung up, she said, "You and husband really are jerks. So am I the idiot? We have the money, she is family, she did repay us, but I don't feel like I owe her anything." Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot, and please stop leaning into the family helps family nonsense. Family helps family once after family proves themselves to be unreliable and irresponsible, then family better go to a bank or learn to live within their means. You don't owe her a loan. They went 5 years with little contact with you. Do you think they didn't cultivate other sources to manipulate money from during that time? More than likely, they've tapped those sources out and burned bridges in the process. Let them fail if it comes to it. That's how you learn. Comment 2, the borrower is a slave to the lender. This is exactly why you don't lend money to friends and family. It changes the relationship. They apparently didn't learn their lesson in the past, and you would be enabling them by giving them money again. Fortunately, you have learned your lesson. Don't fall back into that mistake again. If she only wants a relationship based on monetary help, that's called prostitution. Now, for the update, thanks for the comments on my last post. So my sister's situation went from bad to worse. After I refused to lend her money, she somehow convinced our parents to bail her out again. They didn't tell me directly, but I overheard them talking about helping the kids out one last time. It's like they can't see the pattern here. Then, out of nowhere, her husband left. Just packed up and vanished. No note, no calls, nothing. My sister was a wreck, and guess who she turned to? Me. I took her in because, well, she's my sister. But I couldn't help feeling like a doormat, especially when she started treating my place like a hotel, coming and going at all hours, not even a thank you. One day I came home early and found her on a call, laughing about how she had everyone wrapped around her finger. She didn't even notice me standing there. I was fuming. It was clear she hadn't changed a bit. The next blow came when I found out she'd been using my parents' credit cards without their knowledge. They were too embarrassed to press charges. But it was the last straw for me. I confronted her, and she had the nerve to accuse me of being jealous of her freedom. I told her she had to leave. It was tough, but I had to stand up for myself. She stormed out, and I haven't heard from her since. I'm worried about her, but I'm also relieved. It's like I can finally breathe again. Thanks for reading. My sister denies her husband's dying mother a chance to meet their baby. So I tell him the truth and watch as their marriage crumbles to dust. I, 21-year-old female, have an older sister, Eve, 29-year-old female, who recently had her first child, Lori, 1-year-old female. While this should be a time of joy and excitement, there is actually a lot of tension and brewing resentment between Eve, our mom, and her husband, Jack, 29-year-old male. Despite Eve's pregnancy being unplanned, it was wanted and Jack was an involved partner. He attended most of Eve's appointments, took the birthing classes, and supported Eve's decision to have our mom in the room while he waited outside during the birth. The plan was for our mom to be with Eve in the room and stay for a week after Lori was born. Everyone was okay with this, but unfortunately, our aunt ran into some drama with her husband in another state and our mom rushed over to be with her. Eve was already in her third trimester, so Jack didn't like the idea of our mom leaving and voiced his concern. Our mom got upset with Jack, and Eve also confronted him about it, so he apologized. However, Eve went into labor, and Jack ended up being the one in the room while our mom was away. When our mom called, she expressed sadness over not being there for the birth of her first grandchild, and she and Eve decided that no one else in the family would see Lori until our mom returned. They didn't discuss this with Jack. He understandably wasn't happy because his mom lived about 45 minutes away and was looking forward to meeting Lori, as she was the first grandchild on both sides. Eve used the "I just gave birth" excuse, and Jack reluctantly agreed. On the day that our mom was supposed to come back, she missed her flight and couldn't get a new one until the following morning. Our mom could have just rented a car, but she didn't want to spend the money since the airline wouldn't refund it. Jack suggested that his mom could come again, but Eve refused, citing that he already agreed otherwise. Unfortunately, Jack's mom got into a car accident and passed away before getting the chance to meet Lori, as Eve wouldn't even allow a video chat. Jack was devastated. He moved to the guest bedroom, attended the funeral alone, and refuses to engage with Eve at all. Jack's side of the family keeps calling and messaging Eve, telling her what a selfish and awful person she is, and Jack refuses to defend her. Eventually, Eve got tired of it and packed up and left for our mom's house to teach Jack a lesson, but he hasn't texted or called. Our mom thinks that he just needs some space and that he'll call soon, but I just laughed at that. I didn't mean to, though. My mom and Eve asked me why I laughed, and I tried to brush it off or even leave, but they insisted on an answer. Eventually, I told Eve that while the accident wasn't her fault, she did keep Lori away from Jack's mom for a week, and now she never will get to meet her. I said that there's no way Jack is ever going to love her enough to forgive that, and she should prepare for the worst. Eve started crying while our mom scolded me, so I left. Am I the jerk? Edit. Just to clarify, because I keep seeing this, when the accident first happened, Eve apologized 3 separate times. Jack admitted to this. Eve intended to go to the funeral with him, but he left without her. Jack does interact with Lori. It's Eve that he's avoiding. My niece is the only thing he's willing to talk to Eve about. Jack had been living in the guest room for 5 months before Eve left. She offered to go to couples counseling, but Jack refused. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. I think that Jack is probably 50% heartbroken that he lost his mom and 50% feels guilty that he didn't push harder to have his mother meet the baby. That is a very tough thing to overcome. Eve had better prepare herself to have shared custody at the least. Your sister and mother are a piece of work. And what is it with these only my family can meet the child first? Once the baby is born, they have two parents with extended family. Just because I gave birth, it didn't mean my husband was the lesser parent. Comment 2. Not the idiot. The fact she's not even remorseful or there for her husband. When his mom died shows exactly where her priorities are. What a stupid, petty thing to force him to wait, and even pettier to walk out on him like he did something wrong. Jesus, how heartless. Yeah, I'd be stunned if he came back. I know I wouldn't. Now for the update, thanks for sticking around for the latest. So after Eve left for our mom's place, things got even messier. Jack, who was already a wreck, found out that his mom left something for Lori in her will. It was a small savings account she'd started the day Lori was born. Jack was touched, but it also made him angrier at Eve for keeping his mom away. He decided to file for divorce and full custody of Lori, saying Eve was an unfit mother. That was a news no one saw coming. Eve was shocked. She thought Jack was just cooling off, but now she was fighting to keep her daughter. Our mom was all in, helping Eve with legal stuff and taking care of Lori while Eve worked and met with lawyers. It was a full-blown war, with both sides slinging mud. Jack's family painted Eve as this monster who kept a dying grandma from her grandchild, and our mom and Eve said Jack was just being spiteful. In the middle of all this, I got a call from Jack. He was crying, saying he missed Eve and didn't know what to do. He admitted he was just trying to hurt her because he was hurt. I told him he needed to think about Lori, not just revenge. But Jack was too far gone, and he hung up on me. The court date was set, and everyone was tense. Eve was a mess, barely sleeping, and our mom was constantly on the phone with lawyers or family, trying to get support. The day before the hearing, Jack showed up at our mom's place. He wanted to talk to Eve, but she wouldn't see him. He left a letter and some of Lori's favorite toys on the doorstep. The next day in court, it was brutal. Eve's lawyer brought up Jack's grief and anger, suggesting he wasn't stable. Jack's lawyer brought up the whole not letting his mom meet Lori thing. It was back and forth, with Lori caught in the middle. The judge decided that they needed a full evaluation before making a custody decision. So Lori stayed with Eve for now, but Jack got visitation. Things seemed like they might calm down, but then Jack's sister found some old texts between Eve and our cousin. They were from right after Lori was born, and Eve was venting about Jack and how she wished she'd never married him. Jack's sister sent those texts to everyone, and it blew up again. Jack was humiliated, and Eve was furious that her privacy was invaded. Jack's visitations with Lori were tense. He'd pick her up, and they'd barely speak. Eve would cry every time Lori left, and our mom would comfort her, saying Jack was just being a jerk and it would pass. But it didn't pass. Jack started bringing his new girlfriend to the visitations, which was like a slap in the face to Eve. Then one day, Jack didn't bring Lori back. Eve panicked, calling him over and over, but he wouldn't answer. She called the police, but they said it was a civil matter. Our mom was on the warpath, calling everyone who knew Jack, trying to find Lori. It turned out Jack took Lori to his girlfriend's place, saying he was protecting her from Eve's toxic family. Eve was beside herself, and our mom was ready to unalive Jack. The police finally got involved, and after a long night, Lori was back with Eve. The fallout was bad. The judge was furious with Jack, and it looked like Eve would get full custody. But then Jack did something unexpected. He dropped the custody fight and the divorce. He said he couldn't put Lori through it anymore. Eve was relieved, but also confused. She didn't trust it. A few weeks later, Jack moved away. He said he needed a fresh start. He still saw Lori, but it was different. He was distant, and Lori started acting out. Eve was struggling to handle it all, and our mom was always tired from helping. The last straw was when Lori got sick. She had a high fever, and Eve was scared. She called Jack, but he didn't pick up. She felt so alone. Our mom took them to the hospital, and Lori was okay, but it was a wake-up call for Eve. She realized she couldn't rely on Jack or our mom forever. She started looking for a better job, one that would give her and Lori some stability. It's been rough, and Eve's still figuring things out. But she's determined to make a better life for Lori, no matter what it takes. She's learned the hard way that the past can come back to bite you, and sometimes the only way out is through. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.